someone says he wants to learn more about cloud computing, I can assure you for a fact that you are at the right place. And today we'll be delving in to understand what cloud computing is, how best to transition, and how to make it big in the cloud and DevOps space. All right, so without much ado, we are going to dive in straight into today's session. Today we have Mr. Adepoju Olawale, who is a seasoned cloud professional and DevOps professional too. Yeah, and he will be taking us on the topic that says cloud jobs, what they pay, what you do, and how to start. Mr. Adepoju is a seasoned professional with over 5 to 10 years of experience in the cloud and DevOps space. He has had the opportunities to lead uh, cloud and DevOps, has so many exposure in the cloud and DevOps space. In fact, he has earned big in the DevOps space, and I believe he is the right person today that will be doing justice to this topic today so that you also can have a feel, also understand what cloud and DevOps is and how to make it big. So without taking much of our time, because I know we are already enthusiastic and would love to hear from the main speaker himself, I will be handing over the mic to Mr. Olawale Adepoju, who will come on board and also speak more on the topic that we have today. Mr. Olawale, if you can hear me, the mic is yours now.
All right,
All
thank
right,
you,
thank you.
Cornelius.
Yeah.
Okay, I think there's an echo. All right, thank you, Cornelius. Thank you everyone for joining us for this event. So I believe every one of us already has an expectation and what we want to gain from this webinar as well. So without further ado, I would just go straight into uh, today's talk. Um, we're talking about cloud jobs, what they pay, what you do, and how to start, which I believe many of us, including myself, we always very, eager when it comes to the pay aspect of cloud, because I believe 80% of us would have actually seen, talks on YouTube, different videos on YouTube talking about how cloud engineers or cloud professionals actually earn very big in the industry. So if that is not enough motivation, it is a motivation for me. So Cornelius, so I don't know if I'm actually communicating or you guys can actually hear me properly.
Yes, Mr. Olawale, we can hear you.
Okay.
Please go.
So yeah, so I would want the webinar to be an interactive section. You can drop your comments in the chat and also maybe reactions in the chat so we could actually communicate and make it lively and enjoyable for each and everyone. So first of all, I would like to dive into cloud job itself. So we have to go into the breakdown of what cloud is all about. Starting with, cloud is actually gaining increase in the demand and, demanding cloud professionals. For example, the cloud computing market is projected to reach about $1 trillion market in 2025, which is, I think, big enough. And also with that current rate in cloud adoption, I believe that people would actually earn. So it's a period of time which we have to, embrace the technology. So one of the things that is actually fueling the growth in cloud adoption is, the adoption of AI, machine learning, and big data. The increase in using artificial intelligence, is driving the demand for scalable and high performance cloud infrastructure. So now people are moving from the era of on-premise industries, companies are moving from the era of on-premise to cloud technologies and the era of digital transformation as well, innovative across different industries. It's following the adoption of cloud solutions. So these are a few of what is actually driving cloud solution as a technology. So I would break today's agenda into four parts, which is what type of cloud jobs are in demand, what does this role actually do, what kind of salary can you expect, and also how can you get into the cloud even with limited experience. I believe a lot of us we have questions in regards to, oh, I'm coming from a non-technical background and I'm trying to switch into tech, And a few people would actually say, oh, I have a little knowledge about technology and I'm trying to come into cloud, or I'm a software developer, I'm trying to come into cloud. So these are the kind of questions or we'll try to, or Meet will try to break down into different agendas. So before I start, I'll just do a brief introduction about myself. So it could actually give us an insight into not everybody started with cloud technology. So I'm a cloud architect with Rakuten Groups in Japan. I've been a cloud architect for about 8 years, and I've worked across mainly Asia in India as a DevOps engineer. I worked in also in class method Japan as an AWS AI and ML engineer. And now I work as a cloud architect in Rakuten. So, based on these roles, I know a lot of people might actually have questions based on this role. How did you work as a DevOps? At the same time, how did you work as, an AWS AI ML engineer, and now you're working as a cloud architect? What is the difference in these job roles, or what are the similarities in this job role? Do you need to know a particular tech stack to be able to work in this role, or you have to learn so many, tech stack to work in this role? So I will start by when it comes to cloud, I know so many people would be so familiar with, solution architect, DevOps, and stuff like that. So let's dive into the different cloud jobs categories. Now I mentioned I'm a cloud architect. What does a cloud architect entail? What's the difference between a cloud architect and a solutions architect? What's the difference between a cloud architect and someone who says I'm a cloud engineer or a DevOps engineer, right? So I would say a cloud architect actually mainly designs and plans the whole cloud infrastructure. So it might actually be multi-cloud. The organization might be using Azure, AWS, or GCP. So you might be a cloud architect who is specialized in multi-cloud. For myself, I'm specialized in multi-cloud because I've been privileged to work on AWS, GCP, and Azure. Also, when you look at solution architects, so to give you a kind of breakdown, we'll say a cloud architect is someone who designs maybe the plan of, if we say, yeah, the plan of the city, something like that. And a solution architect is someone now, after designing the plan of the city, who goes in and designs the plan of the house. So a solution architect majorly designs the infrastructure of the tech, of the whole system. Yeah, I'll put it that way. And also, when we say cloud engineers, they majorly implement, maintains, troubleshoot the whole cloud infrastructure. After the cloud architect designs and plans the cloud infrastructure, then the cloud engineer implements, maintains, and troubleshoot cloud infrastructures. Also, a common word we often hear is DevOps. So, what is this DevOps? I often tell people I mentor, DevOps was not meant to be a job description. DevOps was more or less like a culture. You have the development, you have the operations engineer. We all know development is more or less like developers, and operations do the whole administrative job. So DevOps was coined out to kind of um to kind of bridge the gap between development and operations so that you don't go forth and back, to make it easier. So it's more or less like an agile life cycle job. So now what does DevOps engineer do? As a DevOps person, what you majorly do is automation. You automate the software development and development processes in the cloud. You see DevOps talk about GitHub Actions, Jenkins, and stuff like that. So it's more or less like automation of the system. Then we have things like cloud security engineers, which focuses more like securing the cloud environment. And also, so we can break it to, I've talked about cloud architect, cloud engineer, DevOps engineer, and security engineers in the cloud. We can base it on that cloud engineering. Then we have a development in the cloud. So as a software developer, or as a front end or a back end developer, you can actually be a cloud developer as well, meaning you build and deploy applications on cloud platforms. So whatever you've built, you can also build them on cloud platform. We have the likes of Lambda, different services where you can actually build whatever you're building in cloud. Even as a backend engineer, the difference would be it would be cloud focused. So you develop your server side logics, your API for cloud applications. And also you have data engineers. So data engineers also, they design, build their own data pipeline. Instead of building them on premise or whatever system, they build them in the cloud. And also for data scientists, machine learning engineers, they also do that as a data scientist. You can also do that in the cloud. So basically, what we're trying to say is whatever skills you have outside the cloud, you can leverage them using the cloud. So being a data scientist or a data engineer outside the cloud does not mean you cannot do that in the cloud. So you can still be a data scientist in the cloud or a data analyst in the cloud. For example, in AWS, we have tools like QuickSight. We have different tools for analytics. So as a data analyst, you could do those things in the cloud. The difference is you're making use of cloud-based services or technologies. So also as a machine learning engineer, you build, manage, and deploy them in the cloud. So, and for people who would say, oh, I don't really want to learn so much of technology or whatever, you have cloud support engineers, you have cloud administrators where you provide technical support to cloud users, you manage infrastructures. And also for people in sales, yes, sales and marketing, because not everybody would say, I like technology. So you can also be a cloud sales representative who sells cloud services to businesses or marketing specialist for cloud. So these roles, each of these roles have their own roles in the cloud. Whatever you do outside the cloud, you can, you know, replicate it in the cloud. The difference is you're making use of cloud services and you're cloud-based. And what when we keep saying cloud-based now, for someone who is not tech inclined says, oh, what is cloud? Is it where the rain falls from? So cloud simply means you're not managing the resources. A company is doing the resources for you. Companies like AWS, Azure, and GCP, they are managing your server. So you don't have to manage your server. You don't need to have your own data center, the large box of, machines. So someone is already managing that for you. So yours is just to come into the cloud, provision whatever you want to do, run it. And one of the good things of cloud is you pay as you go, you pay as you use the service. So those are one of the benefits of cloud. And you don't need to worry about downtime. Oh, is my server down? Stuff like that. So that is what we mean when we say cloud. So now we've talked about cloud itself. So what do they do? I've mentioned what a few of those roles does, like a cloud architect. A cloud architect might spend most of his morning designing new cloud architectures, landing zones for organization, and also maybe considering factors like scalability in the cloud, security, and cost. And also have meetings with like development teams to discuss implementation details and stuff like that. And also, when we say DevOps, I've mentioned DevOps might start their day by monitoring, monitoring the whole system. We have monitoring tools like Prometheus, Grafana, and Co. They monitor and they automate. So when I say automate is like the major thing DevOps does. You automate your build, the deployment pipelines. And that was why I said it's like a culture for you, a constant development and operations. That's what DevOps is majorly all about, and they troubleshoot issues. Right. So now to the main part where everybody likes, which is the pay part. What kind of salary do you expect? Right? So your to be realistic, your salary to provide a realistic range for these roles, you'll be looking at your experience. So when I started my job as a cloud person, I wasn't expecting to earn so big, but then everybody wants money, right? So you look at your experience, you look at your set of skills. So and one thing I always do when I go for job interviews is I look at glass sites like Glassdoor, Salary.com, PayScale to see okay, what is the range of what they earn. But sometimes when we go on YouTube, we hear devils make like yeah, $150,000, stuff like that, right? But you can't compare someone who has been in the industry for a long time, who has the experience, who has the tech skill. Now, for example, I've been saying DevOps. When people say DevOps, they say, oh, DevOps, what are the skills? Now, for DevOps, you could learn Git actions, Jenkins, or whatever skills. But I can tell you, someone who has been a really proficient Linux person who can troubleshoot, who has been a proficient engineer for years, he would definitely earn more than you because the most of the job is to troubleshoot problems. You can't troubleshoot those problems. You're coming in as a newbie, so you don't expect to earn the same way he earns. So one of the things is you need to look at the entry level versus the experienced level. And also for salary, we might actually be on the same years of experience, the same level, but then know how to negotiate. So that actually comes with the salary as well. People know how to negotiate their salary. It's a skill as well. Negotiation is a skill, I would say. So some people know how to negotiate salary, but one way to keep up with that is to, go on site like Glasgow and have an overview and experience of how much they pay and stuff like that. But then I would, to be fair and to be truthful, we would say, okay, cloud job pays well. But one thing I like about cloud, which I always tell people, is regardless of wherever you are or whatever you do, in as much as you're a cloud engineer, I believe you will always be satisfied with whatever you're getting because you will never get less. If you know your skills, you can prove your skills and you will always get paid compared to, other fields. And one of other things that influence salary, which I've seen lately on places like LinkedIn where people post, there's like, does certification really matter? People say, yeah, your skills matter, certification and stuff like that. I can literally tell you, working across like different companies in different countries, I can tell you skills matter, certifications matter. Because AW, for my example, which I used to relate to people, AWS has 12 certifications and I have 11 certifications out of 12, right? Every time I go for negotiation, my last job, I was like, I have 11. They checked and they saw 11 certifications. Someone asked me, do you really have this? Like, are you lying? I'm like, yeah, you can confirm. So it gives you a kind of edge, but then you should be able to prove these certifications with your skill. But if you have the skills and you actually, uh, back it up with certifications. Certifications actually give you an edge. But I've seen people post these days and say, yeah, certification does not really matter. My people, it does matter because you doing certifications means you're ready to grow. You keep yourself up to date, right? So, and other benefits that comes with cloud roles, apart from the pay, is always like flexible work arrangements. Some companies, like my company, give stock options, the professional development opportunities. You get to relate with people. And so those are one of some of the benefits of cloud jobs. So, but then we've been talking about cloud jobs, how much they pay, what you do. Coming from non-technical, technical background, one thing I always tell people I mentor is this: wherever from anywhere you're coming into cloud, there are some basic knowledge you need to know about cloud. If you don't know them, then it's like you've not learned anything in cloud. One thing is to understand the cloud computing models, difference between infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, software as a service. Those are like the foundations of cloud. Cloud service provider, AWS, Azure, and GCP. Pick one. You can be skilled in one, then later you can be skilled in. For myself, I picked AWS first. I love AWS. It's easier for me. Some people tell you Azure is easier for them, GCP easier. But I do the three cloud, but I have a preference, which is AWS, because I'm an AWS community builder. I get free things from AWS, so I prefer AWS, right? And also networking fundamentals. You're starting from a cloud from scratch. Networking fundamentals are really important. Security principles of least privilege, they are really important. Those four are really important topics you need to know, regardless of if you're going for DevOps, cloud development, backend, whatever you're going for in cloud, machine learning, you need to know all those things. And also learning resources. So thank God, Cloud Booster has actually provided a kind of platform and avenue for training where you can do boot camps and learn well from industry experts and also introduce that into looking for job as a cloud. And also there are online courses like Udemy, Coursera, where someone can actually just pick up books and read and stuff like that. So I would say uh, I've said certification is very important, and also participating in projects, on YouTube, get projects, do projects, and so on is very important as well. So, and after the whole, doing like Cloud Booster training, another thing is tailoring your resume to highlight your cloud skill and experience. If you're going for a cloud architect job, you need to tailor your CV according to the skills needed for cloud architect, which I've spoken about more or less like designing the cloud infrastructure, landing zones and stuff like that. So you shouldn't tailor your CV of DevOps to apply for a cloud architect role. So, and while learning cloud, you can pick up whichever domain you feel it's easier because now we have so many domains. We have machine learning, we have networking, we have administrative, we have the cloud developer, and also solution architect platform. So you tailor your CV to the set of skills suits you best. And also entry is very easy in cloud. You have the junior entry role, the support and stuff like that. So I think I would actually give time for our audience to ask questions so I don't take every time for explanation. Thank you. Okay, so Grace, over to you.
Thank you so much, Lawali. That was a very quick and direct rundown of what a cloud carrier basically is, what they do, and how much they pay. All right, so I'll just like verbal confirmation that you can still hear me.
Yes, I can properly.
Awesome. All right, so I'm reading from some of the questions that the participants have dropped on Slido. By the way, guys, if you've not dropped your questions yet, please use the link in the chat box to ask your questions. Right, so someone is asking which highest salaries with very lucrative benefits. Should I take the question again?
Sorry, Grace, take that again. I think there was a
All
bit.
right. The first question says which European countries pay the highest salaries with very lucrative benefits for their employees and their dependents?
Wow. So, so for that question, to be on the safer side, I've never lived in Europe. I've lived in Asia, I've lived in, yeah, but Europe. So, but I would say with my conversations, I have friends from Romania who work together. So with my conversations from people, I would not say there is a particular country in Europe that actually pays the highest because I have guys I work with in my company who lives in France, they live in Austria. So it depends on your skill set. You might live in the same country with someone, and also you might not have the same skill set. So definitely would earn more than you do. He might have he might have the skill set than you, but you might be very good with negotiation. You will earn more than he does. So it depends on your set of skills, your belief in, what you can do and how to negotiate, which is very important. I've watched a lot of videos on negotiation. It's really very important. But at the same time, while negotiating, you're definitely everybody knows their strength. You wouldn't shoot your pay more than your strength sometimes. But yeah, so I wouldn't say a particular range in Europe, but I know the end well above the normal pay rate in Europe. And also when it comes to dependents, I believe that has to do with immigration. So which I would say European countries don't really know about immigration when it comes to European countries. But if the person is lucky enough, and companies would offer total relocation if you're very skilled. I mean, if you're very skilled. I've seen guys who got for my example myself, I'm a Nigerian, right? And I worked in India and I was transferred to Japan by the same company. So it depends on your set of skills. But some countries would not really even accept this kind of. So it depends on the organization, your skills, and also your experience.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that, Olawale. Next question says are cloud roles more about coding or configuration and management?
Okay. So for that question, coding and configuration management, so I will break it into two. Now, cloud role depends on whatever skill you want to have. I know people are scared of coding. So for the person who asked the question, let me use myself as an example. My background is in electrical electronics engineering, bachelor's. My master's degree is in artificial intelligence and machine learning. Bachelor's, I never had any coding experience. That's the truth. So after that, I learned a few web development, but not skilled in coding when it comes to like data structure and algorithm, not skilled. I know, but not skilled to that level. But when it came to cloud architecture, just like I said, cloud architecture does not require coding. It requires more or less like cloud infrastructure, how to build infrastructure. Solution architect does not require coding. But then you would read, understand architecture, the services. I think AWS about 430 services, I guess. I could literally tell you out of 430 services, I know 350 perfectly. I mean, so it comes with experience doing it every time. So solution architect, cloud architect, some people even say enterprise architects. does not require coding, right? But if you're going for cloud administration, you're going for cloud administration would actually require more or less like just like the person said, infrastructure management when it comes to assembles, and they are not coding, they are more or less like scripting. Assemble, you do more of like YAML files. So I wouldn't say those are coding. But there is a myth when people say, oh, DevOps, you don't need coding. My people, you need coding when it comes to DevOps, because DevOps means development and operations. You must understand development, which is coding, and you must understand operations, which is infrastructure management. So for DevOps, you would need coding. Might not be, it depends on the organization as well. Might not be high level, but in my organization, you must know how to code, right? So, but it depends on your part. If you're going for data analytics and cloud, you don't need to code. If you're going for architecture, you don't need to code. Solution architect, cloud administrator, you don't need to code. But if you're going for anything that has to do with development in the cloud, definitely you need to code. But maybe not to the extreme, but then if you want to earn well, you have to. Anything I tell people, if you want to earn big, you do whatever is difficult. You don't go for the easy ones. And that's why you see things like Java these days. People don't do Java, but if you're very good with Java, you would get a job immediately. I've seen guys who got job in my company. I mean, who hired you from Nigeria to Japan? Because they know Java, Java, C, C++. Those are hard things. And when you go for something difficult, you earn more. So that's it.
Next question. So you mentioned the importance of certification. Someone is asking which certification should I prioritize first? AWS, Azure, or Google?
Hmm. So for that question, I would be biased. I would be biased.
AWS, by
Yeah, I would be AWS biased, right? If you see my profile on LinkedIn, I'm like, AWS community builder. AWS actually gives me free coupon for exam. They give me free almost $1,000 in a year for my running of services. So I'm kind of biased when it comes to AWS because AWS gives you free access to, try out and so on and whatever. GCP gives you, I think, when you register, no, Azure gives you $200 free, yes, free $200 free service to test out whatever. But after that, you have to keep paying. GCP the same thing, but as AWS gives you free access, right? So who does not want anything free? I want something free. So and for the certification, so that was why I said I would be biased. I wouldn't tell you go for Azure, go for GCP. If you study them, you will see whichever is easier for you. I've seen guys who told me GCP is easier, and I've seen people say Azure is easier. But then to me, AWS is easier. I don't need to read it. It's easier for me to understand. But anytime I pick up GCP, it's like, oh God, what am I doing? Anytime I pick up Azure, I'm like, I don't know. So, but then I think AWS education is well structured. And another thing, yeah, another thing I would say, someone said, apart from being biased, uh, AWS owns 60% of cloud market. So in every country, you will definitely get an AWS job. And I can say if you know AWS, you will know every cloud. 100%. The only difference is the service name is different. For example, in AWS, you have Cloud Trade Log. In maybe Azure, you have Azure Monitor Log, something like that. And GCP, you have like Cloud, something, Cloud Audit Log. Yeah. So those are just the differences in name. But once you understand a particular cloud very well, you can put the other service into the other cloud. So, but for me, I would say as a beginner, go for AWS. You have free and so on, and you have, free access. So it's easier, I think.
Thank you. All right, so someone is asking, you said, I'm a 55-year-old male and totally new to this field. Is it wise to get into this industry?
I would say yes, because I follow a woman on LinkedIn. I can't remember her name, Debbie. She's old as well, and she just gotten into cloud about a year ago. And I saw last time, like 2 weeks back, she got a job with some gaming company, doing well as a solution architect. So it does not really matter where your background is coming from or the age. It depends on the zeal to learn, right? Zeal to learn, get into it, learn whatever you pick about. This is what I want to learn, understand the service, and yeah, you push the CV out. So it's all about the zeal to learn for cloud because you don't really need to go for coding, which everybody's scared for. You could pick solution architect part, applied architect part, understand it, then you can apply for jobs in that regards. So there is no end to learning.
All right, thank you so much. Someone is saying thank you very much. Okay, it's a two-part question. Very much for the session. I'm currently preparing to write associate exam roles abroad with just this certification after I get it. And what else do I need to boost my CV as well?
I'm sorry, Grace. First part of the question, I think we missed that.
All right, so he said, thank you very much, sir, for the enlightening session. I'm currently preparing to write the AWS Solutions Architect Associate exams in a few weeks. Can I begin to apply for remote roles abroad with just this certification after I get it? And what else do I need to boost my CV?
Okay. So for that question, it's kind of tricky to be real now. Yeah, it's kind of tricky. One, I don't know your location, but I would say when people say remote job in another country. So for example, you're looking at remote jobs in the US, you're looking at remote jobs in other countries. I wouldn't want to not try to, I wouldn't try to demoralize you. But one thing I've seen over the years with people is remote job is not always easy to get outside the country. It's not easy to get. So most times remote job comes with in cloud, it comes with maybe referral or whatever, or you have like that experience. Because a lot of countries after post-COVID, they're trying to do more of like you are in the country and you get a job in the country. I've tried myself remote jobs, and a lot of recruiters will tell you you're not in the country. They want you to be in the country, except you're lucky, right? So, and you're doing solution architect, do your CV very well within the country you are. You can always apply for jobs, and if lucky enough, outside the country, then. But for solution architect, I think it shows that you have a solution architect experience. But just like I said, certification alone is not enough because if you're saying you want to apply for a solution, normally in Japan, to really hire you as a solution architect, they believe you should have about 5 years experience, six, as a solution architect, really. So, because if you're going for a solution architect because with the certification alone, if they test your knowledge on things like design a landing zone, design a serverless application for, do you really have the skill enough? So, and if you have it, then you can scale interviews because as a solution architect, they will put you through technical questions, not just. So it's kind of solution architect is kind of, they believe you have the experience to design something. So, but if you have it, yeah, why not just try?
Amazing. So speaking of how much cloud roles pay, someone is asking how does salary progression look over 1 to 3 to 5 years in the cloud industry?
Hmm. So, personal experience. So most of the things I tell people is from my own personal experience. If you know your worth. So I jumped from a company as an AWS AI ML engineer to another company as a cloud architect, right? Uh, I did 1 year and I realized, okay, I have the set of skills needed. When I negotiated first time, I'm like, okay, it's good enough. I entered and I said, oh, my set of skills are well enough to get me a job in other places. People are reaching out to me. And I requested for a job, a pay rise. And luckily, I was given. So it depends on your set of skills. But I would tell you in the cloud industry, if you're solid enough, nobody would deny you. You ask, you get paid. I have friends in Canada, other countries that you ask, you get paid. The only thing is when you ask and you're paid, you need to deliver. If you don't deliver, they boot you out. So, but if since you can deliver, yeah, you ask and you get paid. Because nobody wants to hire the amount they spend on training people or getting recruiters to recruit for them is not no company wants to go through the stress. So since you're in-house and they see oh, you're doing well, and also every company does appraisal for their staffs, right? You have appraisals quarterly, some companies does quarterly or 6 months or yearly, twice in a year. So your appraiser would actually determine in your appraiser if they see you're meeting your target, you're doing your job well, yeah, you get paid. So
All right, thanks for that. Next question says, what's the difference between a cloud engineer and a DevOps engineer?
Okay. So just like I explained, cloud engineer actually, so this thing, I was speaking to someone about it. Let me use myself as an example. I was speaking to someone about it last month. On my LinkedIn, I used cloud engineer. Then I sat down one day and I'm like, am I really a cloud engineer or a cloud architect? I was really confused, like cloud engineer, cloud architect, DevOps engineer, just because my current role, I do the roles of DevOps, I do cloud architect, and I do cloud engineer. So I'm like, okay, let me just use cloud engineer. If anybody wants to interview me, I'm a cloud engineer. I do everything, right? So just like I said, the person wants to know a cloud engineer, you do more of like implementing um the infrastructure, maintaining the infrastructure, maintaining the administrative work. But the DevOps is really important because I see a lot of people say DevOps, DevOps. DevOps is a culture to match between operations and development. That's what DevOps is all about. So as a DevOps person, more of your job is automating. Now there is a software, there's a development. Someone has written a code. Now he pushes it to GitHub, right? So now from that GitHub, you have access to that code now. How do you push it to production? Now, in production, there must be continuity. You've deployed it, then the deployment must go on. So if there is a release of version 2, there shouldn't be break. Version 2 automatically takes it. And so it's like a circle, and you're maintaining it, you're monitoring it at the same time. Even apart, people say DevOps, there's still another role called SRE, Site Reliability Engineer, similar to DevOps. The difference is those are more into monitoring, Prometheus and Grafana, right? But as a DevOps person, you're more of like everything is automated, automation, and the set of skills you need to learn in DevOps, truthfully, is kind of more because as a DevOps person, you learn Docker, you learn Kubernetes, you learn so many things because you're doing automation. Assemble, you must know Terraform. Some companies will ask you to know Chef. So it depends on the tech stack of the company. Jenkins, some will tell you Jenkins. Some will say we don't use Jenkins. They use Circle CI for their own CI/CD, which is continuous integration and deployment. So for a DevOps person, you must be well grounded. That's DevOps, more like automation. Let's just use the word automation for DevOps.
Okay, we are really trying to beat time here, so we'll take a couple of questions and then we'll wrap up. So I see some questions about Cloud Booster and our courses. We'll take those at the end. One more question for you, Olawale. This person is asking, does being part of an open source project matter in increasing the odds of getting a cloud job role? If so, can you give examples of open source projects a non-technical person can work with?
Hmm, That's very serious. Open source project. So there are a lot of open source projects. So when you say open source project, and I would say the reason for doing open source project is to practice your expertise hands-on. So two things. If you're a newbie in cloud and you've done open source projects, your hands-on experience is solid. These are kind of the experience, these are types of the experiences or part of the experiences that will form your CV, right? I've worked on this. I've worked on serverless something. How you put your CV. I've done this serverless using this service to achieve this. I built a serverless service for something API gateway Lambda and this service. So those things form your kind of CV. And let's say in a job interview, they're trying to ask you a star question, which is the structure of asking questions. Now the situation, the task, the result, and also the action taken. So based on the task you've done in your open source project, you can easily just use that as the situation, which is okay, we're trying to build a serverless application for maybe a banking company. There's a situation there. Then the task. What is the task? What did you do? Then the action taken. What are the tools you used? Oh, the API to this, to this. That's the action. And what is the result? So because you already have an answer on the open source project, you can use that to answer an interview. The interviewer was not there when you did the project, but this gives you like a kind of insight to that. So those are kind of things that will form your CV. And Anson is very experienced. Open source project is experienced because when you do these things, you will never forget. You know what you've done. But if you just watch videos and read these things, you will definitely forget. So that is the benefit of open source project, personally for you and also for your CV.
Amazing. So someone is asking, how long does it typically take to learn fundamentals of cloud computing, and when can someone start working on projects and preparing for job interviews?
So that depends on the person. I've seen people who've done uh boot camps for 6 months and they got a job. And I've seen people who tell you, I did 3 months and I got a job. So it depends on the zeal to learn. Someone who is putting in 2 hours per day for 6 months and someone who is putting in almost like 7 hours per day, there is a difference, right? So it depends on how much you put in and your, the motivation and the timeline you set for yourself. Because luckily there are structures for this, for the learning. Just like Cloud Booster, they have like the structure for the bootcamp and stuff like that. So there is a structure and also what you learn. And another good thing is reading documentation. For example, AWS documentation and white paper. You would always see something to read when it comes to white paper. So the amount of time you put in, but I can tell you 6 months dedication, putting it into it, you will definitely get something. But another thing, putting in 6 months, don't expect like everybody are like, oh yeah, I want to earn $200,000, $250,000. It doesn't work that way. You start from somewhere, you get something, and then when you get into the industry, a lot of people learn on the job in the industry. Then 1 year into the industry, 2 years, I'm solid enough, then you can start looking for the big pay, right? So I think, but to get something at a junior role, it's always visible after 6 months.
Okay. Next question says, for a network engineer who is aspiring to transition to cloud, what cloud domain would you recommend for such an individual?
Networking, I would recommend AWS because it's easier to understand when it comes to a networking person coming to cloud is like a big boy because networking is one of the essentials in cloud. If you understand the routing, the subnet, that is what gives a lot of people problem when it comes to subnetting because someone coming from a network background already understands subnetting, right? It actually helped me. I did CCNA some years back, so it helped me when I was in subnetting, routing table, security groups. These things can be confusing, but coming into that domain, cloud domain from networking is really like a big deal. So I would recommend AWS because it worked for me. And once you understand that the AWS very well, networking AWS, it's easier to transition into GCP.
All right. This question is similar to what you've answered before. They're asking how long will it take to learn from scratch?
From scratch, I would depends on motivation, but I would say 6 months, give or take, or less than. I wouldn't say less than 6 months. So it depends on the motivation to learn. I know a
Yeah.
lot of people would actually have a job they are doing, so there is no, they don't have too much time to learn. But when we say, okay, give or take 6 months while you're working, you have time to learn 6 months. It's always easier to learn.
All right. Someone else is saying, please give more information for pivoting to from service decks to cloud without programming skills.
Okay, so just like I mentioned in the beginning, I know programming skills actually scares a lot of people, but you don't need to really know programming. One is to understand the fundamentals of cloud. I tell people, why cloud? That's the first question. Why are they using cloud? What is cloud? Now, when you understand these things, you understand infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, you understand the fundamentals of cloud, then you can decide to pick one aspect of cloud. It might be solution architect, it might be understanding administrator, SysOps. You just want to know how to administrate cloud, how to deal with identity access and stuff like that. So if that's what you want, you can get job as a SysOps person, right? So it depends on whatever interests you, and you might later get into cloud and like development. So you go for development, yeah. But there are different lines in cloud that is easier without programming.
So let's see if you read the next question because it says, "Who is the CISOP administrator, and how do you start your journey?"
Okay, so yes, just like I mentioned, SysOp, that word administrator, you take care of the whole cloud, the infrastructure management. SysOp deals more or less like, landing zones, organization. Everybody does IAM, but they do more like handling the whole management of the whole cloud, infrastructure of the cloud, not really infrastructure, management of the cloud when it comes to organization of the cloud and stuff like that. So SysOps I enjoy SysOps, and I think a new word is being coined out for SysOps right now. They call it cloud ops, cloud operations. So I enjoy SysOps as a person because it has nothing to do with programming. So it's very easy to go about. So SysOps is something that would go far. But if you want to, after doing SysOps for a while, there is every possibility you want to grow in that job, and that will lead you to cloud architecture because then you start talking about landing zones, control towers, and then it takes you to little of security on the. So SysOps is like a career path that is very fine in cloud.
Thank you so much. Guys, please use the Slido link in the chat box to drop your questions so that Olawale can take them all. All right, next question says, "What foundational cloud topics should I master first when transitioning to a cloud engineer as a data scientist?"
That person is coming from my field as a data scientist. The first thing you need to know as a data scientist, let's leave data scientist first. Coming into cloud, you need to understand cloud, the fundamentals of cloud. Just like I said, infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, and all those things. So the essence of cloud is you knowing the services. Once you understand that, you understand IAM, identity access management, meaning least privileges in cloud, you can create users and roles. Those are the fundamentals. Then after that, you now understand the service that has to do with data science in cloud. For example, in AWS, as a data scientist, from my experience, you know things like SageMaker, SageMaker Canvas. You can build models in cloud. That is your major job, right? But then you must understand the basics, which are like least privilege access, identity access management. You can create user, you can create roles, and you can give identity access. Generally, those are like the basics. So coming into cloud, you need to learn those basics, the fundamentals, the networking aspect of cloud. Then you can now transition into your main services in cloud, your SageMaker, your recommender. If you want to do recommendation system in cloud, Amazon Lex, and stuff like that. But you still need to know those basics.
You mentioned earlier that people can transition from different career paths to cloud, and you used marketing as sales and marketing as an example. And this person is asking, as an interior designer, which area can I specialize in cloud computing? I think I'll join that to the next question that says, how do I transition from cloud engineer? I beg your pardon, from computer engineering to cloud.
So I think the two questions, they're from two different backgrounds. So let's go with the interior designer person first. So interior designer person, I will believe there is no prior knowledge in tech, right? So that person has like a bare land of understanding. You come into cloud, you learn the basics, and then from that basics, you see that's what I tell people. When you learn something, you see what interests you. The day when I picked AWS, I knew, oh, I like this IAM thing, the security thing. I like those stuffs, right? So it can actually interest you. Then it makes you push further into streamline it and understand this is what I want to understand. But as a general rule for myself, I said AWS 430 services. While learning everything in cloud, I try to understand every service I come in contact with. So, and that's why I said it's very difficult for me now to say, oh, DevOps I know, cloud architecture I know, SysOps I know, AIML I know. Why I can say that is because I know every service in cloud. Now, if I now say, oh no, I'm not working as a machine learning engineer again because I have not done it in a while, but that doesn't mean when they say those services, I don't understand it. So I always tell people when learning cloud, you have to be open-minded and learn every service you come across because at the end of the day, you might think you want to go for a DevOps job, and then you're seeing an architecture job. But if you understand those services, you can say, yeah, I know architect. Oh, yeah, I know DevOps because you understand the services in cloud. That's why I like cloud. You understand the services in cloud perfectly. So I would say learn the fundamentals and scale through whatever interests you at a later date. And for the person coming from computer engineering background, so you're already one step ahead because the basics of computing, you already understand that. The basics of networking, the basics of the OSI layers, the 7 layers, you already know those things, right? So it's easy for you to transition and say, oh, I want to be a developer. Now you develop in the cloud, you write your code in the cloud, right? And now with the advent of ChatGPT AI, so it's easy. You can write your code in the cloud. You want to build a web application, you don't need to deploy it outside. There are services in the cloud like AWS Amplify, which you can use. You just do it, builds your web application and stuff like that, right? You want to build a machine learning model, you don't need to rack your head for models. You go into SageMaker, pick models, Bedrock for AI and RAG generation and stuff like that, you know. So for the person coming from computer engineering is just to know what interests you in the cloud. Then you can start.
Also, all right, so next question says, is having a GitHub profile necessary when applying for an entry role? Also, what type of projects are ideal to put on Git for a cloud engineer if you work on AWS?
Okay. So for that person, I think I understand the person's fear because when you go for software engineering jobs, they ask for Git profile. They want to see what you've done. But for cloud engineering job, I would say Git is not important because I have a Git profile as a developer before, but I have never used my Git profile, never for a cloud job, right? Because let's say as a solution architect, what do you want to show them in Git, right? You can still, I do automation because of DevOps, so I still push things to my Git, right? But as a solution architect, cloud architect, Git is not essential. But one thing is essential in cloud: how do you pass on knowledge? So for that, I have a profile on dev.to, which is as a community builder. So I write blogs. I have about 50 or 50 something blogs. So I write blogs on cloud technologies. So you can include that as your, because most, if you're applying for jobs, they ask you for maybe LinkedIn profile, website, or links. So I put that as a link. So you see, okay, I give something back to the society, right? So I would say write blogs. And the more you write blogs, every blog I've written, I still remember. So you won't forget those services. So, but GitHub is not really important if you're not a developer in cloud. But if you're a developer in cloud, you will need Git maybe. Then if you're doing DevOps, you need to show like your actions, your pipeline in Git, what you've done in Git if you're a DevOps engineer. Not necessary, but important for DevOps, but not necessary. It's not mandatory. They don't ask. But just to prove that, oh, I'm a devs person, I've done automation, right? So, but if you're going for architecture, SysOps, it's not necessary because I've never used anyway. So,
Okay, so one more question for you, Olawale, before we take the other questions that are about Cloud Booster. This person is asking, what is the best way to stay updated on cloud platform changes?
wow, that's a big question. Best way to stay updated. Personally, I'm actually I'm an AWS community builder. So I belong to a Slack group of AWS community builder. So for every new service that comes out, I actually know, or even the ones before they come out, we sign NDAs and I'm like, okay, this service will come out. So I'm updated with all those things. But for someone who does not have that access, the best way is to keep reading AWS blogs. So if you type AWS blogs, you'll see them. Any service you decide to choose. When Gen AI became a thing, I didn't get any document on it. I just went onto AWS blog, chose my service, Gen AI, and I saw on Bedrock. And the good thing is you will see projects, short projects that you can try out using those services. So for cloud, go to AWS. AWS is very good for beginners. If you go to GCP, it's kind of, you might not understand it at the first glance, but AWS documentation is very easy, and they have AWS blogs written by, bloggers and community builder or AWS employees. So just, yeah, AWS blog, I would say.
Um, Awesome. Please confirm you can still hear me.
Yeah, we can.
Amazing. So I think that's all the questions for you on our platform here. Thank you so much, Olawale, for your time. Guys, please let's show our appreciation to Olawale in the chat box. And of course, please feel free to connect with him on LinkedIn. His LinkedIn profile will be posted in the chat box right now. So you can just connect with him via LinkedIn. So I'll be taking a couple of questions for those of us who are curious about Cloud Booster and what we offer. Amazing. I'm seeing our thank you messages coming in the chat box. Let's keep it coming. Thank you so much, Olawale. I saw a message from someone that said the one day boot camp we're having on Saturday is free, but when they tried to register, they were asked to pay uh, £10. That was previously. Kindly refresh the page and then try again. It's free, and we've had a number of people. A number of people have signed up for that. So please refresh and then try again. Alternatively, you can check the links that are being posted on our WhatsApp channels if you're part of our WhatsApp communities. And you should be able to get the direct link. And as another option, you can also message any of our program advisors or message us via our social media platforms, and then we'll make sure you get the correct link. But you want to refresh the link you already have, and yeah, you should be able to sign up. You can still sign up. We have, I think, 2 days to go. That's where you get to have hands-on experience. Just try these things out yourself, especially for those of us who are coming from no tech backgrounds, to see how doable and easy these things actually are. So that's on that. Next question is asking, one moment, please. This person is asking you if you get mentors by being part of Cloud Booster training. Yes, you do. Yes, you do. That's one of the benefits of being part of our training. You get access to mentors. So mentors like Olawale, who is with us here on the call. You've heard him talk about his journey so far, his skills and qualifications. So you get to have experts like himself and others, to become your mentors. So that's one benefit. So yes, to answer that question, the answer is yes. You get access to mentors by being a part of our training program. The bootcamp link, can you share it again? Okay. The link will be shared in the chat box now. Admin, can you please repost the bootcamp link for those who are yet to register so they can just sign up using that? If are you still on the call? If you are, please share the link so that. Okay, okay. I'm seeing your messages. One moment, please. I think I'll just do that. I'm not sure why the links are not coming on. Please share the LinkedIn profile link for Lawale so our audience can connect with him via LinkedIn as well. So if you said you have registered and you'd love to be on the WhatsApp group, on the landing page, after registration, it takes you to a second page where you'll find a link to the WhatsApp group. So you want to check that. That's how you get into the WhatsApp group. Alternatively, you can send a message to any of our program advisors and then we'll help you sort that out as soon as possible. All right, so this is the link for the one day boot camp for those asking who are yet to register. That's the correct link to register for the 1 day cloud bootcamp. So please, you can use that link, and when you register, on the second page after submitting your registration, you'll find the link that takes you to the WhatsApp group, so you don't miss out on any information that comes through. Someone is asking how much is the training fee and for how many months. All right, so our 18 weeks course is currently being discounted for £2,500. All right, and the training runs for 18 weeks, like I said earlier. So it runs for a period of 18 weeks, and it's £2,500 at the moment. So you can reach out to any of our program advisors via the links and the numbers that have been provided in the chat box, um, to get the help you need to enroll. And yes, we accept payment in other currencies as well, especially for people who might need further assistance, probably because of where you are based, your current location. We'll be able to help you facilitate that as well. This person is asking, do I need a university degree to land your first cloud role? Actually, you don't, especially because, we are encouraging people to transition from different backgrounds. So you just have to learn the cloud skills, which is something we teach you here at Cloud Boost over a period of 18 weeks. And it's like what Olawale said earlier. It depends on your dedication, how much time you're willing to devote to learning these skills to transition, and you should be on your way. Your employers just want to know you can do what you say you can do. They don't really care about what university degree you had. I think I've taken all the questions that how much do I pay for this course? I've also responded to that. However, the 1 day bootcamp we're having this Saturday is completely free. It's a free 1 day class where you come and then you experience. It's like a taster class. So you come and have a feel of what we do or how our classes run, and then get your hands on these cloud tools. Let me see if I can take one more question before we wrap up. Can I get a mentor through Cloud Boosters program? I've already answered that. Yes, you can. How do I transition from bootcamp to the full 18 weeks course, and what payment plans or financing options exist for the full course? So first off, we do have payment plans available for people who would find that helpful for the 18 weeks course. So please reach out to any of our program advisors, and they would give you more details about what payment plan would benefit you. Moment, guys, I'm trying to read through the questions so I don't miss out on anyone. I think that's all the questions. Yeah, for Club Booster Camp. Your question came in as incomplete. I'm seeing just for Club Booster Camp here. So, if you can resend that, we will take it quickly. Okay, can I use call for the boot camp? Ike, can I get a thumbs up if it's a yes? Someone is asking if they can use code I3 for the bootcamp.
Yes, yes, definitely.
All right. Yes, all the trainings are online. All our trainings are fully virtual. So we usually hold our trainings using platform Zoom, the Zoom platform. So we have students join from different parts of the world. So it's fully virtual. You just log in and yeah. And then I saw a question earlier about missing class and what the backup plan is. All our classes are fully recorded and uploaded to a learning portal, which you still have access to for an entire year, by the way, after your training program. So should you miss a class or two, try not to miss so much. But just in case you miss a class or two, you can always revert to the class recording to catch up, as well as other learning materials that would have been that would have been uploaded to your learning portal. And we also have like a follow-up session during the week, not just the classes we have on Saturdays. We have a follow-up session on Wednesdays we call the drop-in session, where students who need the help of our facilitators just come live on the call, and then you get the support you need to debug whatever issue you're having. So this was saying, do you mean yes, £2,500, please? If you want to know the Naira equivalent, please, you can reach out to our program advisors via the link in the chat box, and we'll help you convert to whatever currency, whatever your local currency is. Yes, you can. I've taken this question. It's coming in again and again. You can attend a boot camp with a Core i3 HP laptop. Okay, so I think that's all the questions for today. If we didn't take your question, you can just reach out to any of our program advisors with your question, and would be sure to provide you with the resources and support you need. Big thank you to everyone for showing up and for spending your evening with us. We look forward to seeing you on Saturday for the one day boot camp. To have a lovely evening. Bye bye.